Stop wasting time and start growing smarter. You're listening to the Nano Yield podcast, where we're harvesting insights directly from the leaders in agricultural nanotechnology. We'll separate the science from the speculation to help you get the most out of your fields.
Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. We wanted to gather today with the leaders in nanotechnology and agriculture, which is Nano Yield, with the Chief Science Officer, the Director of R&D, and with myself, the CEO, to discuss why we're the prominent player in the space, 2, why you should pay attention to our technology, and 3, why you should be curious about any other person that's coming into the space and dispel any myths or dispel any science that doesn't quite seem sound. And hopefully by the end of this video and the content that you'll be able to see here, you'll understand the way that nanotechnology fits into agriculture. So that's our point of this today, is of course to promote Nano Yield, but also secondly, to just talk about the benefits of nanotechnology in agriculture and crop production.
I'm Landon Bunderson, Chief Science Officer of Nano Yield.
We started as a leader because we were the first to market. So that's the first answer. How do we stay the leader? We show up every single day for almost 12 years now, developing the technology, proving the technology in the lab and in the field, working with customers and proving it every single day.
Yeah, it's a common thing in business that if you're the first one to come to market, you're going to be the first one to have bloodshed and you're not going to survive. And we don't accept that. We were the first to market, first to bring this technology into the industry, and also want to be the prominent player in there. So that's how we've been the leader in nanotechnology for ag, is by being the first one to do it, and then secondly to be the one that's continually innovating and proving the concept and proving the science to farmers every day.
And I'm Garrett Olsen. I'm the Director of R&D, and I've been with the company for a little over 3 years now. I was just going to say, yeah, continuing innovation and innovative work that we're working on, making sure that we're ahead of the curve of the people that are coming for us.
What does it take to do nano right?
Be technically sound, I think, with the chemistry and the physics behind it. It is done at such a level that is precise, knowing the size, the concentration, and what is your overall goal of using nanotechnology in agricultural applications. It's not something to be just thrown in and it's going to work. I think that you can speak on the years of R&D that have taken place. It's a very, very precise technology.
Yeah, I mean, and just to add to that, in order to do nanotechnology right for agriculture, you've got to start with doing some things wrong. You've got to make the mistakes. If you're not an expert on doing it wrong, there's no way you can be an expert on doing it right. And when we started, we had a very crude nanotechnology that it worked. It didn't work all the time, and we didn't fully understand it. And it was just years and years in the trenches, in the greenhouse, in the field, proving out the technology, trying things, making mistakes, adjusting sizes and concentrations in order to get it right. So the answer to how do you do it right is you do it wrong first.
It's the old Edison finding, what was it, like 1,000 different ways to not do it, and then you find the way it works.
Yeah, I think I'd piggyback on that what it also takes to do nanotechnology right is it takes a lot of patience, it takes a lot of capital. We've spent millions of dollars developing our technology to where it is, and it's taken countless years, 12 years, to be able to pull off what we've done. So we always question fly-by-night nanotechnology companies because being able to encompass and be able to prove what we've done, it's taken a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, patience, and capital.
When someone encounters a company with nano claims, what should they look for to know that it's a sound technology?
I think we all have opinions on that one.
Yeah, we do.
Well, I think the first thing is to define what nanotechnology is. Nanotechnology is a representation of size. Nanotechnology means that you have a particle that is between 1 to 100 nanometers. Generally speaking, if it's between 1 to 100 nanometers, that means the application rate of nanotechnology is going to be in small doses in comparison to what we typically see in agriculture, which is quarts, liters, gallons. Nanotechnology that's provided by Nano Yield is provided at 4 to 6 ounces per acre, to give you an idea. Anyway, you guys go from there.
Yeah. When you encounter a nanotechnology anywhere, including outside of agriculture, the first thing you want to do is make sure that it is nanotechnology, and the size range is where you start. Is there a particle or an ingredient that fits in that nanoscale of 1 to 100 nanometers? And a lot of times what you'll find is there are people who are using the word nano as a buzzword and not as a technical term. I mean, a dozen years ago, or maybe a little bit more, there was the iPod Nano. The iPod Nano, it just meant that it was small, right? It didn't mean that it was on the nano scale. And there are agricultural products out there that use the word nano, either in their marketing materials or in the name of their product, that is not nanotechnology. It is not by any definition nanotechnology. So the first thing you want to do is just dive in and see if there's any mention of an actual nanoparticle, especially if it's something that's a liquid or even a dry coating or something like that. If an ingredient is not on the nanoscale, it is not nanotechnology. In addition to that, there are people who will say that they have nanotechnology, and a lot of times what you'll find as you dig into it is, oh, these are all the same ingredients as conventional adjuvants, and in a lot of cases they are conventional adjuvants, which leads you back to what I said before, which is this is just a buzzword.
Yeah, buzzwords for sure. The first thing I do when someone brings up these companies or product is I just look at their label. I look to see what's in it, and just like you said, more times than not, it's a buzzword with a polymer. Of course, the polymer can be on the nano size. That is, again, this is just a measurement of size. We can't dictate how large the molecules are. But attention to detail on ingredients, on where they're getting their ingredients from, where they derive from, are they heavy metals? Do they even exist? Is it a non-existent chemistry word? Again, a lot of it's just buzzwords, smoke and mirrors, and probably not the soundest of science.
Can you patent nanotechnology?
Man, I hope so, because we've spent millions of dollars working on that.
Yeah, we get this question a lot. Can you patent nanotechnology? Absolutely, you can patent nanotechnology. In fact, we have 11 patents awarded, and we have more pending on some of our newer technologies. And it is certainly true that you cannot patent nanotechnology, right? You can't say, I own nanotechnology for agriculture. Nobody else can do it. You have to be much more specific than that. And our patents are both patents that dictate how you make something and also what is the result of that something. And those are two kind of different categories of patents for nanotechnology, which we hold. And because we got into the market first, we did file a lot of patents, and we block people from doing certain things in the nano space, which is an advantage for us and will continue to be as long as those patents are alive.
Why do you want nanotechnology in every tank on every pass?
When someone asks me that question, it seems a bit excessive. I always just say, do you think you're getting 100% of your inputs to the highest effectiveness on every pass? And they're going, if it's a grower especially, they're going to say no. They know. The technology they're using it's falling short. I mean, it's well known that the efficiency of fertilizer is not very good. So yes, unless you think you're getting 100% of your inputs into the plant, then you probably don't need nanotechnology. Everyone agrees that we're not. So that's what I always say.
Yeah, farming is extremely complicated, and dealing with living things is always messy. So when a grower goes out and does their own little experiments, or you're doing an experiment at a university, what you find pretty quickly is that you almost can't count on anything. If it's growing outside, the weather's going to be different every year, the pest pressure is going to be different every year. All of the pressures on that crop are going to vary. And adding a nanotechnology that is designed to deliver things more efficiently into the plant, those things that you create this list when you're a grower and you say, these are the things I absolutely need to be successful. You're hoping that those things, a lot of those inputs are going to get into the plant. And so nanotechnology designed to get it into the plant, nanotechnology that does it with high efficiency, should go into every tank and every pass, because there are things that are battling that efficiency with weather and pests and soils, water, all of these things that have impurities, or they have chemistries that are stealing from what you're putting into the crop.
Yeah, I think nanotechnology is a really affordable insurance plan that farmers can utilize for crop production. Whether you're putting out crop protection, whether you're putting out a biostimulant, where you're putting out secondary nutrients of your fertilizer, nanotechnology can benefit all of these elements, and literally dollars to the acre to make sure, as Garrett stated, to make sure that you can get those efficiencies to get into, we're not going to get 100% of what we put out on a tank on an acre. That's very hard to pull off, but if it's going to go from 60, 70% to 90%, then that investment is totally worthwhile. And that's why I think we have growers worldwide that are applying it every tank, every pass, because they've learned that and they've seen it.
Can increased efficiency mean reduced input?
It has to. As Garrett, our director of R&D, stated before, farmers know that when they put out their inputs, that they don't get it to its full capacity. We have limited resources, we have limited seasons, we have limited days to grow the crops that we have weather events, we have mental errors, we have so many different things that are coming at us in this very complex system that is agriculture and growing food and fiber. And so one of the easiest ways for us to unlock yield benefits is by increasing efficiencies. And it's pretty amazing that you can increase efficiency by adding technologies, and that will then lead you to be able to use less fertilizer. We're not telling people that they're going to put out 80% less fertilizer, but I think any farmer would be pretty pickled to know that they could, by adding things like nanotechnology into the tank, they can now put out 25% less.
Yeah.
Which, for the record, we've seen that is like the number for us with our technology that benefits and you get the best return on investment.
Yeah, I think that based on all the data that I've been a part of since I've been here, our biggest wins have been with the reduced rates. Now, I have my own theory about this that we can go down a rabbit hole. But not only are they looking for a better ROI, especially when commodity prices are low, fertilizer prices are extremely high, but then we talk about regulatory.
Yeah.
These growers aren't going to have an option to put what they want on, and it's coming sooner rather than later. I made my living in a past life on selling volumes of dry fertilizer and liquid fertilizer. That time, I think, is coming to an end. And rather than being stuck in my ways, let's find some technology that we can capitalize on this, because it's going to come regardless of what we think or what we believe.
Yeah, absolutely. Regulatory pressure is going to be huge, and it's always better if an industry can self-police and solve problems before regulatory shows up. And so adding a nanotechnology that can help you reduce the amount of phosphorus that's washing into rivers and streams, the amount of nitrogen that goes into the atmosphere or leaches down into wells, if you can reduce it with a nanotechnology like ours, you should absolutely be looking at that. Additionally, when you think about putting out fertilizer, in most forms, fertilizer is a salt. And so if you think about fertilizer being a lot like a drug, If I'm taking ibuprofen, I'm doing it for a specific reason. I'm doing it to reduce inflammation and pain. And more is better for the inflammation and pain. But there are off-target things that happen, right? Ibuprofen is really hard on your kidneys. If you have too much ibuprofen, you start to lose your kidneys. By the same token, when you're putting out a salt fertilizer, more is better, more equals more yield, as long as the drawbacks don't start to pull on that yield and reduce that yield. And the drawbacks with salt fertilizers is the salt pressure. Salt pulls water out of cells. Salt makes plants droughty. So even if it's wet outside, even if you have plenty of soil moisture, if you've got too much salt on that root, it's going to act like it's droughty. It's going to act like it doesn't have enough water, which...
Because effectively it is droughty.
It is droughty, right? It's pulling, it is creating the drought. And so again, if you can add a nanotechnology to make that fertilizer more efficiently absorbed into the plant, and you can reduce that amount of salt, not only do you get the benefit from the fertilizer going into the plant, you get the benefit from the reduction of the salt on the roots. And same thing with an ibuprofen. If there's a topical ibuprofen cream, if you have sore joints, you can rub it on there. That's going to keep it away from your kidneys and make it, that's a technology for, I'm not selling ibuprofen today, but that's a technology kind of like nanotechnology, which helps you reduce the drawbacks of the input.
Well, and I think just the current state of affairs, it's August 2025. Here's the realities we're facing. We have commodity prices, specifically for corn, that are 5-year lows right now. We have soybean futures, which are very choppy and very volatile due to a lot of the tariffs. And then we have the inputs that go into growing these crops, which are the highest they've ever been. And so if I'm a farmer and if I'm looking and I'm reading the tea leaves of what's going to happen, most likely I'm going to think I'm going to keep paying this and I'm going to get paid less. And so I've got to look at my cost of goods sold. And so the nutrient use efficiencies, as they're called in industry, you have to be able to utilize those to get the best bang for your buck. And in our humble opinion, we believe nanotechnology provided by Nano Yield is the best way to go about that.
How does Nano Yield technology work?
I don't know.
Nano Yield technology works by leveraging nanoparticles to load with, let's just say, fertilizer for now. So it loads with the fertilizer. It protects the fertilizer through irrigation or through spray tank, prevents it from being bound to impurities in the water. When it hits the soil, it keeps it in suspension, keeps it from binding in the soil, keeps it from leaching, keeps it from volatilizing. And the thing that we talk about the most is once that nanoparticle gets inside the plant and encounters the cell membrane, which is the last barrier to get into the plant, that nanoparticle is absorbed through endocytosis. And endocytosis is a completely unique way of absorbing something into the plant. It only happens for things on the nanoscale. That's how a virus is battled inside a plant. It absorbs a nanoscale virus into the plant by folding the membrane. You can picture basically a piece of the membrane just wrapping around that nanoparticle and bringing it in. And that mechanism is unique to nanotechnology and results in more efficient uptake.
Yeah, the physics behind it are, that's what I love about nanotechnology is just how they interact with ions and molecules. It's fascinating that they're non-covalently bound to these nanoparticles, yet the strength is so strong it protects them from adverse reactions that render them plant unavailable. I've ran a number of these reactions and experiments in my lab, and I just think it's so cool where you can add something, mix it, and just like that, it's protected and ready for delivery. That the interaction and the physics of nanoparticles is, I mean, it's exciting to be a part of, and then exciting to make products to go out commercially because of how they work and how cool they are. They're interesting little things. I always tell people in talks and in meetings that if there's one thing that you take away from what I'm telling you is we are a delivery mechanism. We open up another route of delivery because people will say, well, I've got fulvic acid, that's measured on the nanoscale. I have humic acid, that's measured on the nanoscale. And I said, here lies the difference. Humic and fulvic acid, great products. They've been used over and over on millions of acres. They are just protectors. They're a shield, if you will. Nanoparticles, not only are they a delivery mechanism, first and foremost, but they also have ancillary effects as a shield, as shielding mechanisms through, I mean, like I said earlier, there's a number of reactions that I ran that show they actually interact with these ions, namely plant nutrition, and protect them from adverse reactions, keeping them plant available longer.
They're like an armored truck, right? They protect and deliver.
Exactly. Like delivering cash to the bank.
That's right.
What benefits exist outside of endocytosis uptake?
I always tell people in talks and in meetings that if there's one thing that you take away from what I'm telling you is we are a delivery mechanism. We open up another route of delivery because people will say, well, I've got fulvic acid, that's measured on the nanoscale. I have humic acid, that's measured on the nanoscale. And I said, here lies the difference. Humic and fulvic acid, great products. They've been used over and over on millions of acres. They are just protectors. They're a shield, if you will. Nanoparticles, not only are they a delivery mechanism, first and foremost, but they also have ancillary effects as a shield, as shielding mechanisms through, I mean, like I said earlier, there's a number of reactions that I ran that show they actually interact with these ions, namely plant nutrition, and protect them from adverse reactions, keeping them plant available longer.
They're like an armored truck, right? They protect and deliver.
Exactly. Like delivering cash to the bank.
What surprises people most about Nano Yield technology?
I think how easy it is to use. You know, you hear about something interesting in agriculture, and you have to get a specific pump for it to use on your farm, and then you have to put in a specific storage area in a different shed, and it has to be refrigerated, and it's like, oh my heavens, I got to do all this stuff, and I've got to put $50,000 to $100,000 of capital expenditures just to use this crop input, which is going to, you know, correct my CECs in my soil. Like we've heard about that on the farm. For Nano Yield Technology products, it's literally a jug of water that you pour in with your other tank mix, and it makes the products work better. The shelf life is really great. It's affordable and it's easy to use. So when people hear that, they think that we're fibbing to them, but then when they see it for themselves, they're like, wow, it is that easy. Easy button.
Yeah. You got anything else to add to that?
I think when people are skeptical, because all farmers have encountered snake oil salesmen, and which they have every right to be skeptical. But when they see it work, I know there's some instances that I've been a part of, and whether it's from killing mature weeds that they cannot kill otherwise, or have no experience killing those weeds, or when a grower, what I always find fascinating, because I work with numbers, I have to make sure the statistically significant figures that I'm working with to give confidence about these products. But when there's a grower that's been growing on the same field for 50 years, and he doesn't know the numbers, but he said, I've never had a yield like that. And I've been farming it the same way for 50 years. Of course he has. He's been farming it for 50 years. He's an old timer. He's not going to change his ways. But when they include nanotechnology, they can see it and they can feel it, and that is more meaningful than any kind of trial that I can run to get statistics.
Yeah. Another thing that I think is counterintuitive for what surprises people is they hear you describe the nanoparticle and how efficiently it's absorbed, and almost without exception, they picture a foliar application. For some reason, it's counterintuitive that nanoparticles are absorbed through the roots, and they are, and it's extremely efficient. An in-furrow application is excellent, and we recommend it all the time. But for some reason, they're picturing a boom spray going across the field a lot of times.
What's the most common thing you hear from customers?
Yeah, I think I think no matter what outcome our customers get from using nanotechnology provided by Nano Yield, the thing that they always see is some return on investment. Sometimes it's drastic. You know, they're seeing, wow, I put this out and I have 13 more bushels of soybeans per acre. Like, that's a lot of money. Or sometimes it's because I put out NanoPro with XY crop protection, it hadn't been working as well before, and now that weed is now burning down. Maybe there wasn't a yield benefit, but they're seeing that it's controlling the specific problem. So I think it's consistency that we hear from people, and the ROI really just varies because, again, agriculture is very complex, but they see it's consistent and does provide an ROI.
Yeah, agriculture is a business.
Yep.
And it's got to be focused on the ROI because everything is an investment every year, and you're playing up against variables that you didn't see coming. And so when they see that for themselves, and they see ROI first and foremost, but I mean, if I know some really good friends of mine that are coating dry fertilizer and selling it as lawn mix, and the feedback they get, the response is just, we can't keep this stuff on the shelf because word spreads. I mean, grass green up to increased protein content in alfalfa to more robust, even silage yields that I've never even heard of.
Right.
So just that feedback, it's really cool for everything from a cosmetic perspective to a feedstock. One interesting thing that I've heard, and I think it's really cool, especially where we're at right now. If we think retrospectively, when glyphosate came out, it was cheap, worked good. It was used, even though on the label it said use AMS, water conditioning agent, something to ensure that those molecules are in pristine shape. I knew growers that were like, we're not going to spend the extra money on an AMS product. The chemistry is going to work. Well, through time, it's normalized now to condition the water, and now you start seeing this paradigm of NanoPro being normalized as it's got to be in the tank. Mm-hmm. Applicators don't want to get callbacks. Mm-mm. Agronomists don't want to get those phone calls saying that something in the tank didn't work. So you're seeing this shift of thinking to where it's a normalized thought process to have NanoPro in the tank, just as it was prior before it was normalized, just like AMS was.
How's the perception of nanotechnology changed over the time you've been involved at Nano Yield?
Oh man. I'm not being called a liar or a cheat anymore. That's nice. We're not being laughed out of rooms. That's also kind of nice.
It's really nice.
Yeah, taking a technology and getting it to maturity is quite a journey from an entrepreneur, and for a company to go through that. You can't take an agricultural technology concept and have it work on every single crop. It doesn't work like that. You know, we went from taking it on benefits of turf grass and citrus, and then we've been able to, take it from one coast to the other coast, meet into the Midwest across here in the United States, and been able to get it to not widespread adoption, but we're on some acres. We're on 12 million acres or plus this year, and so the things that have changed, I think, about the perception of the technology. One is when we first started, we did not have the right message. And that was done because we didn't understand the technology to its fullest. And we've had a number of very smart people that have come through the doors of Nano Yield to help us refine our message and to make it sound easily. Let me just take a step back. We've been able to refine our message through a lot of smart people helping us at Nano Yield to make sure how technical and how scientific our approach is to be understood by the grower. That's the first thing we really had to do well, because before it was just a little too hard. The other thing that we've been able to do that makes it different from the early days is through the millions of dollars in research and development and through a lot of the people that took a leap of faith to work with us, we've been able to get repeated base hits to triples to home runs that have made it so that it's widespread through the industry, that people are now able to adopt nanotechnology and make it not think it sounds like a pseudoscience. So on the personal level, it's nice because people aren't laughing at us anymore, and they're also not calling us frauds. Now, more so, they're hearing that we have an outcome that's beneficial for the grower, for the distributor, the dealer, the retailer, and in addition, they want to have us be brought on as a technological partner because we provide a solution they don't have. What else?
No, that's, I feel all of those same sentiments when we first got into the market and tried to explain the technology. We didn't explain it perfectly. We had a lot of we had to take a lot of lumps learning how to explain it. So
Grateful for that.
yeah, it was a good experience. It really
100%.
was.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, where we used to spend all of our time trying to explain to people what nanotechnology is and how it works, we sit down with somebody and in a minute or less we can say, this is how the technology works. Let's talk about using it in your operation. And that's really fun. That's really gratifying to get to spend all of your time talking about how to use the technology in real life. And although we had some fun technical conversations in the beginning, a lot of those didn't go anywhere because people kind of got lost in the weeds. And a lot of the reason for that is because we were presenting it wrong.
Yep, 100%.
You've been here a lot less. I don't know.
I had to have no input on it. I think everything has been refined by the time I got here.
Yeah, but you've been here for, maybe talk about what you've seen over the past 3 years, because I think that's really valid, because we really have improved it in a rapid pace during that period of time.
Yeah, I think from what I've seen, it's the message has gotten a lot cleaner, more concise. Just like Landon said, we can explain our technology in 30 seconds to a minute and be pretty good at it too. I also think that good words, good products travel a little bit slower than bad.
Yes.
Bad experiences from products will get a lot more notice, a lot faster and be stomped out. But what I've seen is there's been more organic growth with growers hearing about our technology and saying, okay, I've heard this from more people, so we're going to take this on. In fact, this just happened to us last week. You know, through the grapevine, a contact of mine heard about the technology and reached out to us. So it's pretty cool.
What was your very first impression of Nano Yield Technology when you were introduced to it?
That's a great question. So I had heard about the technology. At the time, I was working in a lab as a developmental chemist working directly with nanoparticles. So I had good exposure to nanotechnology. I knew what it was all about. Not all knew what all about, but I had a taste of it. I heard a little about the company and what my idea was. They're making transitional metals. They're making iron-based nanoparticles, zinc, manganese, whatever the case may be. So my perception was, this is a cool technology, but I really don't know what it is when I started. And I knew it was a delivery mechanism. That part I understood. I just didn't know. I guess it was from a product standpoint. So it was really cool. It was really cool getting to know where you guys first took off.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know if you guys could have picked a place further away to do your large scale stuff on, but So yeah, that's what I thought was pretty cool, just on the specialty crops.
Yeah, specialty crops in Florida. Strange place for a Utah ag tech company to start. My first introduction to the technology was a phone call with Clark and Warren and Mike, founders of the company, and they were very upfront and honest. They said, we think we have a cool technology that we've invested in. It needs a lot of work. We don't understand it very well. We want it to get better. We want to feel good about this investment. And knowing two of the three founders that were on that phone call and having a level of trust, having worked with Warren and Clark before, I didn't have any major concerns that they didn't have something. I took their word for it that, hey, we've tried this in the field, we get good results. And I thought, worst case scenario, it's not nanotechnology, but it's something really cool that we don't fully understand, and maybe it's good, not great, but it'll be something. And as I dove in and found out that, oh, these guys are really making nanoparticles, they really are delivering. And it took 6 months of back and forth and, them mailing me samples. But I was excited from the start. I knew that these guys wouldn't steer me wrong, so I got involved early, and it's been fun ever since, chasing this.
Yeah, it's the impression of the technology was a foundation of trust by being referred to it by a friend, and then seeing good results in a greenhouse, and then putting it out on a farm, and then seeing it work there. So it's just been, for me, it's undeniable throughout my life. Like, I've been able to see it work. I know it works just as well as I know that I'm breathing oxygen. It's been undeniable for me from that first impression to where we're at now, that it has a benefit in agricultural space, and we're excited to have it be a first impression for people moving forward.
Is there something about Nano Yield you wish more people knew?
I think people certainly know that our technology works with liquids, nanoliquids. Even though we're having great success with Nanocote on dry fertilizer, it might even be a more advantageous technology, especially when you look at the waste of granular and just the application timing, and just there's a lot of variables that can go really wrong with granular fertilizer. So I would say the one that I would, if you weren't aware of Nano Yield and Nanocote and what we can do for granular fertilizer, that would be the first thing that I would recommend for people to give it a try, because you will see benefits from blending, dust control, application timing, yield benefit, better relative feed value, better protein, better nutrition content, more yield. I'm saying all these things that everybody's like, Clark, you can't do all those things. It really does all these things.
Yeah, I would go with Nanocote too. I'm a dry fertilizer boy. I was raised on urea and 1152. So I knew all about them, and I also, that being said, I knew all their shortcomings and how there's been no advancements on how to make that old chemistry work efficiently in the fields. And Clark said, Nanocote, it's a workhorse, and I think it's a cool product.
Yeah, I wish more people understood a simple concept, and that is NanoPro added to your spray tank is going to improve that spray tank. Mm-hmm. Almost without exception. Mm-hmm. Because the mode of entry, the delivery system that the nanoparticles use is different, it can improve the spray tank. Now, you're not going to break yield records nationwide or world records for yield unless you're on the verge of it, and we're just going to push you over the edge 10% or whatever. But it is going to improve the way you grow. NanoPro is a simple product, shows up in a jug, pour it into that tank, you're going to get better results.
And I think another important thing about that, because there are other products that are talking about nanotechnology. However, you use those products and your entire program has been modified and changed. there's no modifications or changes with us. It's the same routine, same work as usual, with just an addition of 4 ounces to the acre.
How do you recommend people to start?
A lot of people in farming are either super patient or very impatient, is how I would categorize it.
Right.
I'm getting some grins, so I think my associates agree with that. The nice thing about nanotechnology is you can use it and you can see through months of patience the benefit after it's been applied with your nutrition, whether that's granular, whether that's liquid, all the way up to yield data. Or if you want to be able to tell a difference between 3 to 7 days by adding NanoPro with, say, a herbicide, you'll be able to tell visually that it works. And so I like to tell people to start off by adding it with your crop protection products, and you'll be able to see just visibly that it makes everything work better. And then, of course, if you want to wait all the way till the end of a season to look at yield data, we're pretty confident that they're going to see a benefit.
Yeah, I recommend basically the same thing. And herbicides are a great place to start. What I always recommend for people who are going to use NanoPro with a herbicide is, number one, reach out to somebody who has done it before, who has used NanoPro with herbicides, because there's some easy mistakes that you can make where you go out and you spray and it's an easy weed to kill and everything is dead after a week or after 14 days and you didn't learn anything. There's a way to set up a simple side-by-side experiment that we can help you with that will help you realize the results that will give you the confidence you need to use NanoPro in every tank and every pass.
Yeah, I think if the patient growers, they're looking at yield maps, they're going to have, that's going to be obviously more effective. But for those quick turnaround for a burn down, any kind of herbicide, systemic or what we're talking about, because we're getting more into the plant, side by side with and without, is it'll slap you in the face.
Have you ever thought about joining the Rebel Alliance?
Did you put that in? Or was that Britt?
No, that was me. Oh. Sorry. Yes, I have thought about it.
So if you bring it up, yes.
Yes. That's funny.
Nano-Yield's latest innovation is Nanocote. What is it, and how does it contribute to modern agriculture?
I think the best person to answer that is the inventor, Garrett Olsen. Garrett?
Yeah, it's very simple. It's a carrier of nanoparticles that goes on dry fertilizer. When I came here, I saw all the data on the liquid nutrients and how good it was performing. And then I said, how do we address the other 80% of the fertilizer market? Obviously, you cannot, just like Clark said earlier, the nanoparticles are in water. You can't add water to the salt to deliver these nanoparticles. So the biggest hurdle was to create a matrix, a carrier that was applied to the dry fertilizer that didn't sacrifice the integrity of the prill, didn't break it down, for people in the operation, the blend, the dry barn, the application equipment, we didn't want to impact them in a bad way to where they didn't want to use it. So it had to be user friendly, and it had to perform agronomically, and it had to make sense from a business standpoint. So we wanted to address those 3 things, and it is designed to go on all dry fertility, NP and K, and micros. It's designed to increase the uptake, and we have mountains and mountains of data showing not only increased yield, but we are driving more nutrients into the plant with the dry fertilizer. So we are making baby steps to get that old 1152 to perform better in the field and increase the ROI. So that's Nanocote in a nutshell.
Is using nano-yield products precision agriculture?
I think the idea behind the concept of precision agriculture is that you can take the old standard, I wouldn't say archaic, just the standard ways of how we've gone about agriculture, and you can plug in technology to improve those benefits, to have it be so whatever you're trying to do, whether that's getting a water droplet better to the plant, whether that's making it so that your soil could absorb whatever you're putting out with precision. And so I would say that yes, Nano Yield is driving precision agriculture, specifically with crop inputs.
Yeah, I totally agree. Precision agriculture, I think most people think of digital or mechanical equipment or technologies. And as Clark said, if you've got a technology that can make the grower standard better in a precise way, precise uptake with nanoparticles, yeah, absolutely. This is precision agriculture.
Is there a consequence to not incorporating Nano-Yield technology?
Yeah, I can just tell you what I've heard from growers that have gone away from it and then of course came back to it, but it's consistency. Earlier we talked about that nanotechnology, when applied in every tank and every pass, is like adding an insurance policy to your crop inputs. And if you want to have consistency to have the inputs that you're putting out on your crops work in precision, doing the job that they're supposed to be doing, then you'll be able to experience that by adding nanoliquids or Nanocote. We've had growers who their farm manager maybe disagreed with them using nanotechnology, or they simply just forgot to pour NanoPro into a tank. This happens, we totally understand. And they will report back that they just don't see the consistency and the consequences of that, or they didn't grow as good of a crop. So it's economical, it's proven, and people when they realize that after working with us for a couple seasons and they go away from it, they literally hit themselves in the head. So.
Yeah, I would just add to that. I agree with everything, obviously, you said. I have a lot of conversations with people saying, which application is the most important with NanoPro or with NanoN? Which application should I put this product in? And the answer is we don't know. We don't know which is going to be the most important. We don't know if you're going to get a heavy rainfall event and all of a sudden that fungicide pass that you made a week earlier is really important. We don't know if things are going to get really dry and that potassium, whatever, calcium, whatever product it is, we don't know which one is the most important. And as we've said here a couple of times, it's a nice insurance policy that every tank and every pass that you make is getting that level of efficiency that ensures that whatever you're putting out is going to do what you want it to do.
Yeah, it's such a dynamic environment that agriculture is. You don't know what conditions are going to be when you apply that pesticide. You don't know what's going to happen with that dry fertilizer when you put it down. It's just this rotating dynamic set of variables that can help or hinder you. I always talk about nanotechnology to either growers or agronomists. It's simply put, it's farming with a safety net. You don't know when it's going to help, but it's going to help, and it's going to be very cost effective too. So it's just, it's insurance policy for all of your applications.
What is your favorite product to add NanoN to?
From where I come from, high calcium, high pH soils, it's going to be anything with phosphorus I'm shooting for. Phosphorus is like gold from my agronomy days, so yeah.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. Adding NanoN to a liquid phosphorus application is excellent. On top of that, we have a really good, large, and ever-growing data set that adding NanoN to UAN is a great move.
Ditto.
What is your favorite product to add NanoPro to?
I think the time-tested glyphosate's going to be my go-to.
Yep, glyphosate's a good one. Adding NanoPro to glyphosate, and additionally, somebody who comes to me and is kind of already planted, already in season, and saying, where do I start? I will often say a fungicide, if you're a patient grower and you're going to have a yield monitor and you're going to actually, you're actually going to see it, a fungicide is a good place on top of glyphosate.
Yeah, I think definitely agree with the commodity crop protection products, but we have a lot of data, mountains of data that showcase when NanoPro is added with plant growth regulators and hormones, it unlocks pretty crazy things in the plants where people are growing. I mean, we have some people that are doubling their fruit set, or they're just seeing really interesting things. And so whether it's you want to get your apples to look darker red, or if you want to get your peaches to firm up, NanoPro can do some really interesting things to get those nanoparticles to make those plant growth regulators, those hormones, work even better. And those can be really expensive for these specialty crop producers. So that's a go-to for me, where I make that recommendation.
I also like insecticides. I guess I jumped to the glyphosate too quick. It was my knee-jerk answer.
That's a good answer.
But I do like insecticides. You can run models and you can run pest populations in a stand of alfalfa, and you can model it how fast those populations are going to rise and how much they're going to eat. And what's cool is we have a number of data sets showing after application on a very expensive insecticide that is the industry standard, we make it work faster. And it's just really cool to see that population go down and that plant health go up in such a rapid manner, where one of the data set in particular that I'm talking about is how the population went down on day one of the application, and on the control side without the NanoPro, that population continued to rise 3 days after application. I mean, that's biomass being ingested. So I think that aspect where you can actually see your biomass disappearing or not is a pretty cool sign.
What is your favorite thing to put Nanocote on?
2100.
I love ammonium sulfate. It's a time-tested.
It just works.
It's a good chemistry in high calcareous soils and high pH.
It just works, man.
I love ammonium sulfate from the chemistry standpoint. We cut our teeth on this with phosphorus. So so many data sets of Nanocote on phosphorus. So whip that old horse.
Yeah, both of those, absolutely. AMS and MAP or whatever. A blend with phosphorus in it. A great place to start with Nanocote. Yep.
Yeah, I think in summary, we've been building Nano Yield to where it's been for 12 years now. And we have some Me Too people that are coming out, which we take as a compliment, that people are wanting to enter into the nanotechnology space in agriculture. But what we wanted to showcase today is the way that we look at nanotechnology in agriculture, and also just, I think, showcase to dealers, distributors, retailers, farmers, growers, agronomists, crop applicators, that if you are going to be putting out a nanotechnology, make sure that they have the data to back up their claims. Secondly, that it comes from a source that is trusted and safe. And third, that it's economical, because that's what we've done at Nano Yield. And I think that's why, this last year we were ranked as one of the fastest growing companies in America, and why we consistently are having the wins in the field that we're having.
That's a wrap for today's episode. Thanks for listening, and remember, strong roots build strong harvests. Until next time, keep growing strong.